Stewart Bullock and the Brownies to come forward and lead us in the pledge. If we'd all come forward. We have some Brownies in front. We have Martha Stewart Bullock. The girl, well, they look like Brownies. They got brown shirts on. They're Girl Scouts. I'm going to let Martha Stewart Bullock lead this crowd here. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I call the Martha Stewart Bullock group forward, I want all the Girl Scouts to come forward and introduce themselves. Give us your name and why you're here. You have an item on the agenda. You're giving us something tonight.
One at a time.
Come on, introduce yourselves. We'll cover you first.
Wait,
That's it. Just say your name.
okay. I'm Zoe.
Hi, Zoe. Do you have a last name?
Oh, I'm Zoe Coelho.
Good to meet you, Zoe.
Don't be shy. Come on.
Hey, Zoe, you know what? I've got a daughter named Zoe as well. I'm over here. I have a daughter named Zoe, too.
I'm Ansley Rickson.
Hi, Inslee.
I'm Alexa Shorzel.
I'm Melissa.
Alexa Shorzel.
Alexis. Good to have you, Alexis.
Alexa. It's the microphone.
I'm Lauren Jones.
Lauren, welcome.
I'm Jessica Albritz.
Jessica, welcome.
I'm Ava Boyle.
Ava, good to have you.
I'm Tony O'Brien.
Good to know that.
I'm Eve Heslin.
Hi, Eve.
Hi, I'm Isabella Doss.
Isabella, it's good to have you. I want to brag just a minute. My mother started the first Girl Scout troop in Roswell many years ago, and it's good to have the Girl Scouts here. We get Boy Scouts all the time, but it's a much rarer event when we get the Girl Scouts, and we need to get more Girl Scouts down here. And I think you have a presentation to make.
Very briefly, I just wanted to tell you all what our girls have been working on for the past year. They spent their time raising money for something called the Bronze Award, and that's something that Girl Scouts in elementary school work towards as a group that they can earn, and it's in support of some form of community project. And so our girls decided that what they would like to raise money towards is a MARTA bench, which we understand will eventually be placed in front of the Mansell Road Walmart. So we'd like to present a check to this council if they would accept it.
Well, my council would love to come down and get their picture taken with you and receive this check. So council, let's join these, and Steve Asenbrock, I assume, will be picking up the check. It's a transportation project?
Yes, sir. Go on the other side and line up along the dice. Parents come forward. Parents come forward if you want a picture. Parents come forward.
Look at her.
Can we get everybody?
All right.
Excellent. This is the real thing.
So Nancy, if you'll call that agenda item, we'll get this passed to make sure we can keep this check.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Don't leave yet, we're not done.
You have to make sure we can.
We have to make a motion and get it approved. We could have opposition. There are a lot of red shirts out there. They could have come down for this.
The next item is approval to accept a Girl Scout troop donation in the amount of $800 and approval of the budget amendment 100-42700-05-27-15 to recognize the revenues and expenditures associated with this action. And Mr. Asenbrock is here to tell us about it.
Thank you, Councilmember Diamond. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, good evening. It's an honor to present this agenda item to you tonight. As you heard, the finest girls in our society have decided to make community service a hallmark of their achievement, and it's a great partnership for us. As they mentioned, we are going to buy what is called a semi-seat, which is a place for the riders of the MARTA transit system to be able to relax and rest as they're waiting on the bus to come through. It will be placed on Mansell Road in the public right-of-way across from the Walmart. There's another bus stop there now, so it'll be paired. We will buy 6 of these as per the manufacturer's requirements in bundle. So we're using part of our city funds to match with the Girl Scout money to exhaust our remaining MARTA funds, and they have provided a very nice discount for us because of this project the manufacturer has. So as soon as the approval, we will order the semi-seat and we'll create some sort of a small ceremony when it's actually installed.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilman Diamond to approve the acceptance of the grant and the budget amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Orleans. Any further discussion by council? Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Girl Scouts. Let's have another hand for them. They can go home now. All right, National Flag Day. If the Martha Stewart Bullock chapter would come forward. And we have Devin Baker. And Paula Nelson.
Hello.
Hello. Hard act to follow, I know.
That was going to be my opening line, actually, is that it was a hard act to follow. We've come here to receive a proclamation for Flag Day and to have it recognized as a national commemorative event. It was actually in 1949 that President Harry Truman put forth legislation to officially make June 14th of every year National Flag Day. And we are very grateful to the City of Roswell for your continued support of proclaiming June 14th for the City of Roswell as National Flag Day.
And we appreciate your bringing this to us. It's probably been at least, I think we've done this year every year I've been in office, so it's going on 18 years.
Yes.
So with that, I will read the National Flag Day Proclamation. Whereas the Continental Congress of the United States on June 14th, 1777 adopted the first official flag of the United States. And whereas the Congress of the United States on August 3rd, 1949, the same year I was born, officially designated June 14th of each year as National Flag Day. And whereas the Congress of the United States on June 20th, 1965, adopted a joint resolution approved by the President to recognize a pause for the Pledge of Allegiance as part of National Flag Day ceremonies and urged all Americans to participate. And whereas the City of Roswell has always been proud of our national flag and what it symbolizes, knowing that it stands for the best that humankind has ever sought and achieved in the history of the world. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim our participation in National Flag Day on June 14th, 2015, and invite all of our citizens to join. Let's have a hand for Martha Stewart Bullock and Devin and the flag. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come get these proclamations. Thank you much. I'm sure we'll see you again this year. Constitution, when is Constitution Week? So everybody can mark their calendars. September 17th. We'll expect you back for the.
And by the way, this is Devin Baker. He is the second vice president of the Martha Stewart Bullock Children of the American Revolution Society. And this is his mother, Tamara Baker, and she is multitasking. She's senior president of the CAR, and she also serves on the executive board for the Martha Stewart Bullock DA.
Let's have another hand for these wonderful people. Thank you. And with that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Orleans. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone have any questions regarding the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, raise their hand. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon the liaison to the Community Development Department, Councilmember Becky Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first one on the agenda is RZ 2015-00760. Concurrent variance 2015-00761, 12121 Houze Rd. My understanding is that the applicant has asked for a deferral to the to the July 13th Mayor and Council meeting. Mr. Brad Thompson will be presenting.
That is correct. This is a rezoning application on Houze Rd. They are awaiting permits from EPD related to their stream and lake. We want that information as part of their approval prior to the rezoning, so the applicant is requesting a deferral to the July 13th, 2015 Mayor and Council meeting.
Do we have a motion for deferral?
Motion for deferral until the July 15th Mayor and Council meeting.
Motion for deferral by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. Is there anyone present here tonight on that rezoning matter on Houze Rd? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion of deferral, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Okay, the next one on the agenda is CU 2015-00393, CU 2015-00394, and concurrent variance 2015-00392, Vickers Village. I'm not going to read all the land lots. Everybody knows what they are, but it's for King Lowry Ventures LLC. And my understanding, Mr. Townsend, is that we received a letter for deferral on Friday afternoon.
That's correct.
To defer till June the 22nd.
The request from the applicant is to defer the application to the June 22nd Mayor and Council meeting. The application is for a conditional use for height, as well as a conditional use for multifamily, as well as a concurrent variance for the buffers. The applicant is reviewing their application and is requesting the deferral to the June 22nd Mayor and Council meeting.
Does the application, Mr. Roller, are you representing the applicant? If you'll come forward a minute. If you could give us the reasons that you're requesting deferral.
I'm sorry, would you ask that question again?
The reasons that the applicant is requesting deferral.
Yes, there were some discussions about conditions last week that had not been discussed before. As a result of those matters, we have to reconsider what we're doing, and we're planning to have a meeting with staff on Thursday morning to forward that discussion.
And will the public be advised of any changes in what the request is after that meeting? If there are any changes?
If there are any changes, I don't necessarily anticipate any at this point, but there are some matters that we have to properly respond to in order to let this go forward.
If there are changes or if we need to notify the public, if there are no changes, we need to notify the public. So they'll know what's coming forward to this council. If the applicant makes any changes, we certainly want to let everybody know. And if they don't, we want to let everybody. So how would staff recommend we best let, I think there's some people here tonight who may be interested in that, would best let them know if there are any changes to the application, or if there are no changes.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Wynn, have you got an idea how to do this?
Yes, sir. We did CC John Caruth on the deferral. I'm sorry if everybody didn't get that, but this was kind of late Friday afternoon. I think we have some spokespeople. I know Betsy is one of the leaders, and Stacy Perlman. I want to say Stacy Perlman, but I'm not for sure if that's the correct name or not. But we can find about 3 or 4 emails and be able to send them out some information. Can
we also post this on the website? Where would we post it?
Under the meetings and agendas application. I mean, when the agenda is finalized, all of the background information is placed on the website.
So they'd go to the City of Roswell website.
Correct.
And then? Meetings
and agendas, and they look for the council meeting for June 22nd.
They'd look to the June 22nd council meeting.
If
this motion is correct.
Granted
and there are any changes, and there'll be a report out what occurred at that meeting.
That's correct.
I'm sorry, I think we can find at least 2 or 3 people. Mr. Kruth is one of them, I said, and Betsy is another. They'll be glad to get some emails out to them and let them distribute that to their community to let them know what's going on.
All right, so is there a motion to defer?
Motion to defer till the June 22nd, 2015 Mayor and Council meeting.
Motion to defer by Councilmember Nguyen. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eigelhart. At this time, we'll hear from the audience. There'll be this, you have an opportunity to speak tonight, but I would encourage you to see what, if any, changes are made to this application. There'll be a full public hearing on the 22nd. This council encourages the developer to work with the community and work with staff to try to come up with something that to come up with a good plan, and that's what I think what we're in the process of doing. So at this time, if you got any questions or comments, I would encourage you, if you're trying to address the merits of it, but do you have any concerns about the deferral? If you'd like to speak, you've got 5 minutes each. Anyone wish to have any questions or wish to speak? Yes, come forward, please. If you'll give us your name and address.
I am Gary Smith. I'm located at 43 Wood Place, Roswell, Georgia. We have been watching this whole scenario play out. To find out today that the date was changed from today to the 22nd was just stuck on the signs that we have been posting all along on this. There's 2 categories of people in this thing: the ones that don't want it at all, and those that want to go back and have the right setbacks and have the right amount of vegetation and so forth. Now, I've been in Roswell since '74, and the great people up here probably know me, and the ones that don't, when I was in '74, this area downtown Canton was just a nothing place. Nobody, really came there except to get feed or whatever, go to the chancellery. But since that time, it's become a major thing in Georgia. I hear about this all the way from south to north, and we want to maintain that look. We want to maintain that atmosphere that this is historic Roswell. This is not tomorrow's Roswell. Next thing we know, we'll have subways running through here. And I just think that it's very important that we all really consider all the details. Now, I am buried in the dark of how many changes go on every day on this thing. It seems like every day. And, we need to get more information out to the people of Roswell on what is really going on, because it's so piecemeal, just like the changing of the date today. This morning I went for my walk, the sign said today. My fiance comes over here tonight, they all say the 22nd on the signs. Now, what kind of deal is that? Is that something to, sway people from coming and going, oh, well, it's the 22nd, don't come here and speak. Anyway, that's my word. I'm for, not for the project at all, that it doesn't fit the neighborhood. Number 2, if that goes through, I'm for the setbacks, that this thing looks like something that belongs in Roswell on Canton Street. Thank you very much.
We will do the city will be posting if the applicant has made any changes after this coming meeting. It will be posted. We'll try to get it out as best we can. As you said, it's an important decision for the Roswell, and that's why we're taking a second look at it and encourage the developer to take a second look at his plans. Does anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no hands up, the public discussion is closed for tonight, but there'll be a full discussion on the 22nd. Everyone will have an opportunity to speak. Does the council have any further discussion regarding the motion to defer? All in favor of the motion to defer, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Thank you for coming tonight.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, the next one on the agenda is RZ 2015-00014 and concurrent variance 2015, excuse me, let me back up. It's 0013 and concurrent variance 2015-000.9610887 Alpharetta Highway, LandLot 484.
Let's wait just a minute till the room clears.
Okay, this is a rezoning request from commercial mixed use to commercial heavy, and it's United Development Services, Samstone, and this was deferred from the May 11th, 2015 Mayor and Council meeting, and Brad Townsend will be presenting. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to present the next two applications together. This is 10887 and 10885 Alpharetta Highway. The application is requesting to be rezoned from the CX to the CH designation. This is in order to use the property as a Kia Carland. There have been two buildings that have been demolished. The Goodwill building is to the south of the property. That's on the 10885 designation. This is the location of the property north of Mansell, east of Alpharetta Highway. This gives you an aerial view as well as the current zoning. The southern two properties are, the applicant is requesting to rezone to the CH for that location. The Goodwill is intending to stay currently in its current building in its current location. The applicant is proposing a Kia Carland in the existing Sharon's building that is remaining at that, no, it's not the Sharon's building, the Hi-Fi building, sorry. Everyone knows it at different times. The two buildings that have been removed become inventory parking for the used or the new car dealership. This is an upgraded landscaping plan that moves a lot of the additional landscaping to the front of the street side. One of the difficulties in providing a lot of landscaping in this location relates to there are some electrical pole, Georgia power lines in that location, so trees that grow high and located in that location are hard. So they've placed numerous trees, but they have hedges in rows in that location. This is a comparison sheet of what was originally proposed and then the new plan. It gives you a number increase in trees, shrubbery in those locations from the original plan to what is being proposed tonight in the approved landscaping plan for that location. This just gives you an aerial look at the two buildings that go away, the Goodwill that stays, and the landscaping that would be placed in that location. Staff recommended approval of this rezoning as well as the concurrent variance at the time. The changes that have taken place since that location, there was discussions with the applicant, with the variance originally being a 20% requirement for outdoor amenity space and them requesting a 0 requirement applying for that. What has changed is we've now changed the landscaping to 15% for landscaping and 5% for outdoor amenity space. The discussion that I have had with the applicant relates to if the Southern Goodwill site rezoning request was removed, then that acreage taken out of the whole of the development and only the location where Kia would be locating, their landscaping requirement would actually be 14%. So there's only 1% less of the landscaping requirement. So they only need a variance for 1% of landscaping and then 5% outdoor amenity space. So that is where the current new landscaping plan shows for what's being proposed, and that's only if the Goodwill site is removed or withdrawn without prejudice this evening from their land plan.
Is the applicant removing the Goodwill site?
I believe he'll be discussing that this evening.
Before we go on, we get to the questions, it would be helpful.
Do you want him to come and answer that question now?
It makes a difference in how this thing proceeds forward. I don't think we need to do the whole presentation.
Sam Stone with United Development Services. If you're talking about the sign, that's the Roswell trade sign on the current Kia or proposed Kia Carland property, yes, we will remove it.
No, that's
He
not
just
the
wants to know
question.
if the application for the Goodwill is going to be.
Oh, yes, we're removing the application
For the Goodwill site?
for the Goodwill.
All right, that clarifies things. Thank you.
Perfect.
So does the council have any questions? As I understand it, they're asking for 1% variance.
1% landscaping, 5% outdoor venue.
What requires approval from this council tonight?
First, the rezoning from CX to CH.
Okay.
A 1% variance for landscaping, and they may have some opportunities to put in outdoor amenity space in front of the building that needs to be addressed. Either you give them a relief from the 5% or you require them to fit the 5% in somehow.
All right, does the council have questions? Councilmember Eichelberg.
But what was in place at the time that this was submitted is a 20%
Outdoor amenity space.
Correct? And
Correct.
How much on landscaping in general? Was there not the standard landscape strip along the road? And
They had the 10-foot landscape along the road. The only thing that they were missing is the discussion between parking island landscaping that is normally for a parking lot as related to a inventory or storage of cars.
and that amount?
They did not meet that.
Right, I understand.
Carolina Island's all over the place.
Just a clarification, I can't raise the question. Under which ordinance are we traveling? The amended ordinance, which has or the ordinance at the time of the application? Mr. Halsey thought it was in effect immediately, which in my understanding we would then be working under the new ordinance.
The ordinance went in effect immediately, so I was applying it as it went in effect for application. I applied it as to any application that had not been approved by council, and I've tried to track it through to that.
So the law that we would apply would be the amended law?
Correct.
Ken, do you have any questions about that?
Yeah, that actually helps. Okay, thank you.
Does the council have other questions? Council, at this time we'll hear from the applicant. Councilmember Wynn has a question.
Mr. Townsend, the revised landscape plan that you've shown, I know that the site plan dated January, I had it written down, but in January, showed cutouts for almost like show cars. That landscape plan still shows those cutouts? Or did they take those away? Because I know that we always, go with the site plan.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that that's what we're still doing. So they're still there. But did the landscaping plan take those out?
Yeah, they're showing some display areas in those 3 locations.
Okay.
Yep, they're still on.
And they're still there on the landscaping? Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Hey, how do you zoom this back out?
Zoom it in or I zoom it out?
Out if you can. Perfect. My name is Sam Stone with United Development Services. Today I have Buck Woodruff, owner of Carland Automotive, and also Laney Campbell with Kia Motors of North America. Mr. Mayor, and balance of the council, thank you for your time. We're requesting zoning approval for the Kia Carland dealership located at 10887 Alpharetta Highway. Currently, Kia Carland is located in the city of Alpharetta on Upper Hembry Road. Carland would like to bring this to the city of Roswell. Just last year, this same parcel was zoned C3, the acceptable zoning for auto dealerships. The zoning was changed last year. The property owner is requesting that it is returned to the zoning that is acceptable for auto dealerships, which is CH. The property has been an auto dealership on and off for 38 years. This property was the original Honda Carland in 1976. Mr. Wolf has always intended that it be an auto dealership again. For this, the reasons for the move from Alpharetta are twofold. The current property in Alpharetta is too small. They just can't store the inventory needed in order to sell and service cars. The second reason is the property is located closer to actual auto dealerships.
And Roswell's a much better place to be, right, Buck?
That was actually the next sentence, Mr. Mayor. And Carland has had a long-standing relationship with the city of Roswell. Finally, since the Goodwill site is being withdrawn, we would like to incorporate stormwater upgrades for the Goodwill site now as part of the overall LDP permit for Kia Carland. Essentially what we're asking for is when we upgrade the actual site for the LDP, even though Goodwill is being withdrawn, we would like to include the stormwater now and go ahead and upgrade
Does
it.
staff see any problem with that?
The stormwater improvement that they're looking is under the parking areas, so it's better to do it all at one time.
So staff has no objection?
We don't have an objection to them doing the underground improvements for the water, correct?
Please
Okay.
proceed.
That's our final request. Thank you for your time. Questions?
Councilmember Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. What is the reason for, what's the hardship about meeting the outside space?
It's again the parking concern, and I can actually Laney or Buck can actually explain it as a business aspect. But basically, if we don't have enough cars to sell or enough parking to sell and service cars, then there's not obviously the dealership doesn't work. I actually have a letter that was sent to the mayor back in March. I'd like to present this letter, and it actually lays out some of the parking counts. And if we were to lose to go with the 5% amenities, we would lose 10 parking spots, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is when you look at these parking counts. So if I could pass this letter up.
Please give it to Caleb.
Okay.
Councilmember Wynn.
Ms. Stone, the letter that's being passed out, is that including Goodwill as part of your
Yes.
parking?
Yes. And
Because, hold on, because
Yeah,
since
sure.
you're withdrawing Goodwill,
It's
Mr.
still,
Townsend, they can still use that as a storage facility for the cars. They just cannot sell from there. Am I correct?
that is part of the problem, is that Goodwill is entitled to 172 parking spots per their lease. And so even though we're withdrawing it from the application as far as the rezoning, we still cannot use it for parking.
So
And so-
you're looking at 196 spaces is what you
That-
have now.
That's correct. And then if you follow the math below, this letter was produced, if you see, when there was 20% amenity space, and now we're down to 5.
Right.
So if you follow the math, there's a minus 43 for customer parking, employee parking, and then the 20%, if you go down to 5%, that's roughly 10 spaces, 39, roughly 10, let's call it 9.5. That leaves 64 spots. Let's actually up that to 10, it'd be 103, it'd be 93. So 93 spots for new cars, used cars, and also service cars. Every spot is really necessary to actually make the dealership work as far as profitability.
Okay. 140 new cars. So explain that one to me. It's not always quick to restock, so generally recommend
That's the
2
actual,
months supply at any given time. 2 months supply is approximately 140 cars, new cars.
that's correct.
What
And
about used cars?
I actually have Laney from Kia North America. She can explain the inventory and the required cars.
Okay, I understand about the new cars, but what about used cars? Is this going to have anything to do with, what about the trade-ins?
Yeah, that 140 has nothing to do with the used cars.
So, hold on, so you're adding, so you need more for used cars also? Am I correct on this? So what's your bottom line? How many parking places do you need, taking out Goodwill, that you need to be a viable car dealership? New and used.
We would like to have all of them, so actually it would be the entire count of 103 if you do this math. So 64 plus 39 is 103. Even though it's gone down 20%, we still would like to have 103 of the balance. Really 196.
Laney Campbell, Kia Motors. The recommendation right now is to have parking for 140 brand-new cars. Mr. Woodruff is just in the infancy of this, and so is Kia. We expect momentum to go up, but for a couple of years until we can work out the Goodwill situation, or he can potentially find other places to store inventory, the 140 is the recommendation. So he's going to be pinched. Every single spot counts. That's the reason for the request.
So what I'm hearing, Mrs. Campbell, is that this is really a temporary 140 some odd, or whatever you need, 140 some odd, if he's going to look for somewhere else to store cars.
Well,
so then to me it's not a hardship if you're actively pursuing other places to store cars.
the other place would be the Goodwill site. And so it is temporary until Goodwill would leave, which is roughly 2 years. And so for this time being, yes, he would be under a hardship until Goodwill would leave and we could have actively more parking.
Okay, thank you.
Does the council have any other questions? Councilmember Orleans.
Just to clarify what you just said, I thought these numbers included the Goodwill spot. So you're saying it'll get better when Goodwill's gone in 2 years, but I don't see how it's getting better. If these numbers apply with Goodwill there or not there.
Yeah, what we have now is 196. So with Goodwill gone, we would go
the additional 172.
Additional 172.
Gotcha. I'm sorry.
That's right. And hopefully I answered the last question right. What we need is what we're asking for is 196.
Councilmember Wynn, do you have another question? Does the council have any other questions for the applicant? Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Councilmember Wynn, are you prepared to make a motion? Or do you have any other questions?
Mr. Townsend.
Sure.
On outdoor amenities and landscape, and in the new text amendment that we just passed, what is your authority on administrative variances? It's 10%, am I correct?
10% of the requirement.
So you could do it for the landscaping, but not for the outdoor amenity?
Correct.
Okay. I do have one thing I do want to bring up real quick, and it's going to be part of my recommendation. It's going to be a condition of zoning.
Okay.
So I'm going to run it by y'all, so you're not too blindsided. But what I would like to add is no elevated or on-grade parking will be allowed on any grass and landscaped areas except as shown on the site plan. You all okay with that?
We agree. Okay.
And that means those 3 places that you have for show cars is not part of that. They're exempt.
Okay.
Are you okay with that one?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay.
My name's Richard Woodruff, Buck Woodruff, 11085 Alpharetta Highway, and I have been here 41 years. Sam got it wrong.
Okay. Who was the first car dealer on Highway 9 up there?
I believe I was.
I think you were. I think you've.
1974.
I don't know if it's weird to think. I think we're here to thank you for that car dealer row. It sure brings a lot of taxes.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. The other hardship I have is I located in front of a cemetery, a very large cemetery a long time ago, and I can't seem to get away from it. But
you may get there one day.
I will be there one day.
Y'all gonna have a seat. Councilmember Wynn's cogitating.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I do.
Councilmember Orleans has a question.
Yeah, it's better you're located in front of it than in it, so, the cemetery. My question is, in I think this is a good approach of eliminating the goodwill so that you can try to get close to the numbers that are needed. We're doing this, I know you're trying to improve the property, and we appreciate that, and it'll look a lot better than what it is, but we're also trying to bring everything up to standards of what we're trying to go forward in Roswell. So I guess my question to you is, eliminating the goodwill part of it, and if you are able to get the variances tonight you're asking for, when you come back in with that piece of land to include it 2 years from now, what are the expectations of you being able to then meet the landscaping and amenities that we're talking about tonight? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure how to address that, to be honest. Do you have
The only thing I would say about that is the actual requirements from Kia, which Laney can speak better to, is that every year in the car business, the requirements go up for stored cars, selling cars, service of cars. So in 2 years, it could be a totally different ball game for them as far as Kia's projections. And frankly, I think you're having a record year, isn't that correct? Yeah.
But at that point in time, if business is doing so great and Buck Woodruff's business is growing and Kia is selling a ton of cars, it'd be easy to find an off-site location to keep a few cars in if you could accommodate all of them as needed today on this site. And what I'm getting to is that kind of looking at the big picture instead of just what you're bringing in now, but in 2 years when you include this goodwill property, that we can get the total project up to the standards that Roswell's looking for as well. So that might mean, if you are growing a number of cars, then that you might have to take some off-site where, you're trying not to, and I understand that, but we're also trying to get to certain minimum standards that everybody else is getting to. So I guess I'm just trying to say, as working today out and 2 years from now out, if I'm still here in 2 years and you come back, that's what I'm going to be looking for in order to accommodate if I agree to the reductions tonight, so that in 2 years we come to the compromise with this whole thing, that it comes out in total for the city and for you as best we can.
So you're saying he needs to look for more property for more parking?
No, I'm saying, sometimes places do have to get off-site parking. All the dealerships are growing in numbers.
Okay.
And saying, so if we can come to agreement to get what's needed 2 years from now, yes, depending on their growth, if they're growing that much and Kia's growing that much and Kia keeps demanding more and more and more, which I understand auto companies tend to do, then maybe there would be a requirement to go off-site, and that would be something you might have to accommodate. Or Kia might accommodate. If they're doing so well, they might be happy with current number of cars.
I will say that we are not able to require more. His sales and service agreement will not be in danger if he can't do anything further. So I'm not going to put him out of business in 2 years if he doesn't have enough spaces.
Right. I would hope
state
not.
law is heavily weighed towards car dealerships.
I would hope not, especially if he's doing so well and selling the Kias.
I'm thinking.
Which I'm sure he's going to.
Yes, he is.
And Kia's had trouble in this area getting their sales going, so I'm sure you need somebody like Mr. Woodruff to really kick it off for you.
We do. My point being, I'm not going to be mean to him.
So I'm trying to look at the bigger picture instead of just dictating what's needed right now, that in 2 years, and this is the suggestion of eliminating the goodwill that came up a week or so ago in some conversations, that if you do that, but in 2 years know that that's what we're going to be looking for from you to change the goodwill, to use it as you want to, that we can get the amenity space and the landscaping as needed. If the council goes along with the variance tonight, I can't speak for council, I'm just discussing it here.
Can you give us a couple seconds to talk about it?
Sure.
Councilmember Wynn.
I have, before y'all go for your little powwow, I have a question, and math probably wasn't one of my strongest suits, but, I know how to add in some tracks. So, what you're telling me is when we take off goodwill, you have 196 spaces left. Am I correct? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
You need 43 for parking requirements for your customers and 50 for your employees. So that takes you down to 103.
That's right.
Okay, but what you're telling us is that you need at least 140 for the new cars. That's what Kia is recommending. So you're still 37 short, hold on, 37 short. Or if we take the 103 and you do the 196, if we do all the variances that you want and you don't have to do all the landscaping and amenities, that still leaves you 93 short. So I don't see the hardship here, because even if we give you the variance or grant the variance, you're still going to be coming up short on the cars that Kia is requiring you from this letter for new cars. So maybe I'm missing something here.
You're correct with the math, is that he's going to be starting with a hardship regardless. And so that's what we say, every space counts. And even though it's 140 required, I think Laney can speak to, you guys are allowing a variance for him on this situation.
That's correct. I'm sorry, yes, that's correct. We're allowing it because.
Recommending it.
Yeah, recommended 60 days. It's not a hard number. Much depends upon performance. He's going to ramp up. He's got construction time, opening, seasonal, all kinds of stuff can enter into that number.
Councilmember, as I understand it, they recognize in 2 years he's going to have an additional property adjacent to this to build onto. So the expectation is for the next couple of years to cut him some slack.
I understand that, but the thing is that this council cannot hold a future council to that. And I don't know what the UDC is going to say tomorrow, much less 2 years from now. We could up the amenity space and the landscaping space to 30%.
Well, he may not be able to do it in 2 years, but right now he's simply saying, give me permission now, 2 years. This council doesn't have to grant any variances in 2 years. He may not be able to meet the requirements. He may need to get something off site. But tonight, he's asked, there's a specific request.
And I understand that, sir, but the thing is, he's going to have to find off-site storage somewhere until Goodwill comes on board. So it doesn't matter if we give them the variance or not, they're still going to have to find off-site storage somewhere for the additional Kias.
As I understand it, today he does not need to find off-site parking somewhere because Kia has allowed him to get by with less today. He may have to tomorrow.
That's correct. What they'll do is they'll control the influx of cars that come in by ordering less, thus not being able to have off-site storage.
Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Okay. Y'all had said no to the variances on both
We
staff?
actually recommended the original variance of 20%, we recommended 4.
Are you recommending approval tonight?
Yes.
For the variances?
Yes.
I don't like giving variances on stuff like this. I understand what's going on here, but I think I'm going to back off a minute, and because I haven't.
Councilmember Nguyen, I need to clarify that. We did recommend denial of the variances.
That's what I was thinking you did. Okay, I'm going to back off a minute because I haven't heard from all of my council members yet.
Because any council members wish to make any comments at this time?
I think I've already kind of outlined some thoughts, and I don't know if you're still going to.
Councilmember Witt, as I understand it, the variance being requested tonight is a
5% outdoor amenity space and 1% landscaping.
Now, how much landscaping and outdoor amenity space is he currently have with this plan?
The plan that's being proposed, he has 14% landscaping.
And no outdoor amenity space?
0% outdoor amenity.
So he's asking
Total of 6.
He's asking for a total of a variance of 6%, 1% on the landscaping and 5% on the outdoor amenity space.
Correct.
So he's asking for a 5% variance.
And that's what I'm.
And administratively, how much variance could you have granted him if it were up to you?
I can grant a 10% of the requirement. So for 15%, I could grant 1.5% of that, which would be.
And he's asking for 6%.
Right. but I
Well,
can't grant any on the outdoor.
I would ask council to again, look at the fact that this has been in the same use now for 37 years.
That's correct.
And I think that it's an improvement over the prior use. I know there was a zoning change that was not objected to, but this was, for 37 years, it's been in the same use, and I think we're actually seeing a better use. So I don't see it as a large variance, but that's ultimately the council's decision. Yes, Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember Diamond, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally fine going to CH. I think you're absolutely right. That was actually the way we had drawn it up initially in the UDC. You know, we had originally, when you started this, it was going to be 20%, and now it's down to 15%. And I just feel like we need to hold the line somewhere along the way. And everything else, I agree with everything that's been said here. We are so appreciative of all you do. I have bought cars from you before. I appreciate your bringing your business to Roswell and keeping the property that you've had all this time. But I just feel like 5% amenity space is not a huge request, and it sounds like there is some play in other people's numbers, and I just feel like we've gotten you pretty much there on one side. I just feel like 5% is not a huge request, and I can't support that part of it.
Council, if I could, in your landscaping plan, that area is not identified as landscaping or outdoor amenity at this time. They were going to use it for car display. It depends on how you want to label it as to which category it's going to fit in. They're not identifying it currently on the plan as either or. It's just on the plan for their extra cars.
How big is it?
What's that?
How big is it?
It's 140 feet by 30 feet.
That's at least probably 3 or 4% of the property.
Okay, so what you're saying, Mr. Townsend, is that we could take that position, if they put like a bench or two in there, it could be an outdoor amenity space?
You could label it and identify it and condition it in any way you see fit.
That's how come you're the planning and zoning director, you know that.
If you can go back to the overhead, it shows a picture
No,
of what
it's the
that
front.
space could look like.
Yeah, right here.
And put a couple of seats there, and we
It's
got
right-
it
sure.
made.
It's that
Okay,
area right there.
okay, so I can make my motion now, since that's how come Brad gets a big butt.
Before you make the motion, I think Councilmember Orleans wishes to make a comment.
Yeah, I still think, with the concept I was talking about, if you guys want to meet on it and see if you can commit to meeting, assuming it's current criteria, that when you add the Goodwill property into it, and try to meet these amenities 2 years from now. And the amenity space can be worked into your dealership too. I mean, I'm not your architect, and that's a whole nother thing. But the landscaping coming up to what's required, whether it's in between parking spaces or whatever, when you add the Goodwill. So that's what I was asking earlier. And so if you want to see if that's something you can work with 2 years from now to help on the variances now.
Sure, just give us 1 second.
Mr. Halsey, did you want to comment?
I'd just like to point out that this council can't bind the council 2 years from now. Anything they may want to comment on, they're free to do, but this council can't require it as a condition of this rezoning. Future actions 2 years from now.
Mr. Houze, I think after all these years, I'm fully aware of that. I just think I'm having some discussion and trying to get some way to put some votes together in one way or the other and come up with a compromise.
That's fine. I just wanted to make clear for the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Townsend, while we're waiting, that little space that we're looking at that we may or may not say amenity space,
Yes.
would that still need some type of variance, or do you think it's going to meet the 5%, or would your
I think-
administrative variance help, administrative?
I think we're going to get close enough that I can fit into the 10% that I'm allowed administratively.
Okay, cool, okay.
Councilmember Wynn, do you wish to make a motion?
Well,
Councilmember
Councilman-
Orleans?
no,
Councilmember Eichelhardt?
Just a small point that I think Mr. Orleans has a valid point for the future to consider, but honestly, we've given away more and more important places, so to me, this is not that big a deal. I actually agree with the mayor that in relative terms, this is not anything that is that big a deal. We've done more, given away more in more important places.
We can actually agree to Councilmember Lauren's question and for the future Goodwill site.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And as said, you know, we can't make you do it. I'm just trying to create an understanding of what we're trying to do, and maybe we can get there in 2 years instead of trying to jam it all right now and make it work for both of us.
Sure.
My plan is to be successful and profitable. If I had a crystal ball to tell you what 2 or 3 years from now would look like, wish I could. But
Well, Mr. Woodruff, everything I've seen you've been doing in Roswell has been very successful, so I don't doubt it.
we appreciate that.
Councilmember Wynn, do you have a motion?
In just a moment, Mr. Mayor, I'm getting clarification from legal. Okay, I was just making sure I was clear on how to do this properly. Okay, my motion is to approve the rezoning from CX to CH with staff's 6 recommendations, and I'm sure that you've all seen those, and those do include about the non-conforming signs and all that, so you've seen all 6 of those,
Yeah,
correct?
we agree.
Okay, and then I'm adding the 7th, no elevated or on-grade parking shall be allowed on all grass and/or landscape areas except as shown on the site plan dated January 5th, 2015.
We agree.
Okay, now this is what I'm going to do. I am going to deny the variance on the landscaping, because that's 1%, and Mr. Townsend can do the variance on that one. But I am going to approve the area shown on the site plan that Mr. Townsend had on the overhead as amenity space.
Okay, understood.
Okay? Is that right? And so that is my motion.
Councilmember Wynn moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise your hands. That's 3 in favor. Councilmember Eichelhardt, is that yes? That's against. Councilmember Orleans, Wynn, and Diamond in favor. Opposed, Councilmember Eichelhardt passes 3-1.
Okay? And that's it.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, and we are withdrawing the other one at 10887 Alpharetta Highway. That's
No.
being withdrawn without,
10885.
I'm sorry, 10885 Alpharetta Highway,
being
withdraw without prejudice.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. The next one is approval of an amendment to the UDC Section 11.6.4 Development Impact Fee Computation, and this will be the second reading, and it's presented by Mr. Townsend.
This is the second reading for the impact fee changes. We're going from 40-some categories down to 8 categories residential and 3 non-residential categories. Staff would recommend approval of the second reading of the impact fees. And I'll let Alice answer any detailed questions, or Keith, if Keith is here, can answer any detailed questions about the impact fees.
Before I forget it, for the record, Councilmember DiPolito is absent with an excuse, and Councilmember Price, although we miss her, is no longer on council, having qualified to run for state representative. Please proceed, Alice.
The one thing I want to remind this body of is that we're asking that the effective date for this ordinance change be September the 7th. That will allow 90 days for notification for the development community.
Does the council have any questions?
And we just have to have
About the
Mr.
impact.
Halsey read the second reading.
Mr. Orleans,
Mr. Mayor?
So Alice,
let me get a question.
that means in the 90 days, anybody that comes in over these next 90 days will not abide by this. It will start at the 91st day for any plans first submitted to the city, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Halsey.
This is an ordinance to amend Table 11.6.4 Development Impact Fee Computation contained in Article 11, Streets and Public Improvements of the United Development Code, whereas state law provides the governing authority of each municipal corporation shall have legislative power to adopt clearly reasonable ordinances, resolutions, or regulations regarding to its property affairs and local government, for which no provision has been made by general law, whereas to comply with the Development Impact Fee Act, now therefore the mayor and council of the city of Roswell pursuant to their authority do hereby adopt the following amendment, and the rest is incorporated by reference.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve second reading.
Motion to approve second reading by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise your hands. It's unanimous.
And my last on the ComDev agenda is approval of a resolution to transmit the STWP, which is the short-term work program, and the capital improvement element covering the 5-year period 2015 to 19 to the Department of Community Affairs and the Atlanta Regional Commission. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this is the annual update transmitting the short-term work program and the capital improvement plan to the Atlanta Regional Commission for their review. This keeps us in local government status so we can do a lot of wonderful things. Staff would recommend approval of the transmittal.
Does council have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Council passes unanimously.
Does it for me.
This time we'll call upon liaison to the Admin Finance Department, Councilmember Kent Eichelhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item is the approval of an ordinance to authorize Fulton County to conduct an election on November 3rd, 2015. Mr. Fisher, please.
Thank you, Councilmember Eichelhardt. This is the ordinance that we do every year so that Fulton County can do our elections for us. We do not have an elections office. They handle that. We handle the qualifying, we handle the paperwork, we handle the advertising, we handle the filing of the candidates. They handle the actual physical locations and the personnel and printing of the ballots for the election. So this would be the first reading of an ordinance which is required for us to use Fulton County for our elections.
Mr. Halsey, if you'd read the ordinance, please.
An ordinance of the City Council to authorize Fulton County to conduct election, whereas on November 3rd, 2015, an election will be held in the city of Roswell to elect city council members for posts 1, 2, and 3, and for municipal court judge. Whereas OCGA Section 21-2-45 provides that a municipality may authorize and contract with the county to conduct elections. Now therefore be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Roswell, and that the mayor is authorized to enter into a contract with the Fulton County Department of Registrations and Elections to conduct this election using express poll or other such measures approved by the Georgia Secretary of State, which contract is attached hereto and incorporated herein.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Eichelhardt for approval. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item is approval to amend Article 3, alcohol beverages of the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances regarding brew pubs, and the approval of initiation of a text amendment to Article 9 of the UDC dealing with the manufacturing of alcoholic beverages, and we're going to let Mr. Townsend go ahead and take that one. He would just be pointing at you anyway, so we'll go straight to you.
As discussed at the committee, we're just with the new legislation dealing with microbreweries and brew pubs. We're trying to bring the alcoholic beverage licensing requirements as well as the uses allowed within the UDC in conformance. There was some question, I heard from Doug Curling last week, and his concern was on page 3, actually on page 2 of 5, letter D, the definition of microbrewery. This is the definition we had in the UDC, so we were trying to make it consistent within the licensing requirement. Mr. Curling's issue was the microbrewery definition is something our consultant dealing with UDC provided as a control for microbreweries. It's never been in the state legislation, so we need to probably redefine that and get it clearer as to what controls that, because I believe there was some concern about when a microbrewery starts, there's no way they have enough capacity to sell 75% to an offsite distributor, that you can't even get enough of the barrels to be able to do that. I know nothing about brewing, so that doesn't really sound, so all that to say is we will probably be looking at that requirement. We would recommend you do the initiation this evening. We'll be bringing it to Planning Council. We'll probably be bringing it back to committee a couple of times and then bringing you a final resolution when it goes through the process.
Councilmember Orleans.
I also had some questions about definition of distillery combined with definition of microbrewery. The microbrewery is talking about production levels, and I know we're trying to separate microbreweries from a full brewery, and that's where I know where the production levels came in, other than what you're just talking about now. But under distillery and the definition of that, we have no indication of how big it may or may not be in a similar fashion of a full brewery or a microbrewery. All we're talking about is a % of alcohol volume. So I'm thinking, based on where we want distilleries and the size of distilleries, we need to look at some of the similar considerations of microbrewery versus a regular brewery. Or am I not seeing something right here?
No, you're correct. I mean, the way we had at least drafted and we're looking to, in dealing with the connection, if you look at the use chart, the distillery and brewery would be conditional everywhere, but the microbrewery is permitted in all of those designations. So it's the distillery and the brewery become whether council wants to put them in that location or not.
Okay, so we're doing it that way instead of allowing it like the microbrewery we're going to allow in certain areas just because of its size.
Right.
You don't think that's a good way to do the distillery too?
We will,
because
whichever direction you want us to do it.
I've heard some rumors about, you know, a defined distillery similar to a microbrewery is more of a tour thing and things like that, and not in a full production. So I don't know which way would be the better way to do it, make them all come through a conditional zoning basis, or to try to define it this way like a microbrewery.
Just how busy you want me to be bringing processing applications to you, which is
well,
just
that's
fine.
what I'm getting at. I think it'd be better if we had some allowance for them to go into, you know, I don't know, the historic district or someplace in a smaller level of a tour system and a tasting system instead of a production system. So maybe you can look at that before it comes back again.
Okay.
So that'd be a recommendation similar to having like maybe a micro distillery category, so that we can divide those up between a big one or maybe a smaller one.
Correct.
That wants to do more of the tour type tasting rather than just the full-blown production.
Right, because I don't anticipate major distillery manufacturing moving from Bourbon City in Kentucky to here, but I do expect that tasting approach and kind of an entertainment, special event tasting approach like a microbrewery. So maybe we can take a look at that and how we can define that into it.
Okay. We can do that.
Mr. Houze, would you read the ordinance?
It's not.
Ordinance to amend Chapter 3 Alcoholic Beverages, Article 3.2 Licensing of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, and amending the Unified Development Code dealing with the use of manufacturing of alcoholic beverages to be allowed in certain UDC districts. Whereas the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell are charged with the protection of the public health, safety, and welfare, whereas the Mayor and Council now wish to update the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances regarding the sale of alcoholic beverages, Chapter 3, Alcoholic Beverages, Article 3.2.2 Licensing. Whereas the mayor and council now wish to update the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances regarding the location to allow for the use of manufacturing of alcoholic beverages, Chapter 3, corridors and nodes, Chapter 4, downtown, and Chapter 5, employment district of the Unified Development Code. Now therefore, the mayor and council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following amendment. The remainder of the ordinance is incorporated herein by reference.
Do we have a motion to approve the first reading?
Move to approve, and with the understanding we don't know when the second reading will come because we have a few coming back. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll go through the initiation planning council process and come back to you then for second reading.
So there's no deadline on bringing it back for the second reading? A motion to approve the second reading by Councilmember Eichelhart. Is there a second? First reading. Motion to approve the first reading by Councilmember Eichelhart. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Second to the first reading. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This time we'll call upon liaison to the Transportation Department, Councilmember Nancy Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is approval to adopt the Mansell Connectors Planning Study, otherwise known as Big Creek 3 and 4. And Mr. Eisenbrack and Mr. Chauvin are here to tell us more.
Thank you, Councilmember Diamond. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this is a nice night. We are going to finish a study that we started 14 to 16 months ago, an important study. We studied connections off of our Big Creek Parkway. As you all know, that we have under design right now for a parkway going east and west across Georgia 400, connecting Holcomb Woods Parkway with Warsaw, essentially. And so what we did was we partnered with our North Fulton Community Improvement District, and we're represented here by Kristen. And what we did is study connections off of that main spine going east and west and going north and south. And I'll have Mr. Chauvin explain it, but I would like, if you'll indulge me just for 1 minute, I hear a lot that we do too many studies in this city. We study this and we study that. I would like to say that studies like this are extremely important for our city. If not for the good work of our design partners, Gresham Smith, who, as you can see from this graphic, have lines all over the map and have studied a variety of different alternatives. Those alternatives guide us to spend our money wisely. And so I'd like to say this was, in my opinion, money well spent for the city, because we have reached a good conclusion that we know what we don't want to spend our money on, and as well as what we do want to spend future dollars on. And I'll let Chris explain.
It will be money well spent when the road opens. Until then, it's
at least we know the alignment, Mr. Mayor.
It's an investment, but I have every expectation of one day building this road in my lifetime.
Yes, sir, you will. Mr. Chris Chauvin, our planning manager.
I'm glad to hear that, Mr. Mayor. That's a good thing to say. Just to give you just a little bit of background, we started this process, as Steve said, about 14, 16 months ago, working through a variety of alternatives that you see here on the map. If you're looking to the west of 400, which is this main line in the middle, that would be what we would call Phase 4. And on the eastern side of 400 is what we call Phase 3. And so we looked at what I call the pasta map. It's basically the spaghetti noodles of all the different alternatives that we looked at between the western side and the eastern side for Phases 4 and Phases 3. We had outreach to our stakeholders. The CID assisted us on outreaching to some of their stakeholders, such as Cousins Properties and North Point Mall. We reached out to the city of Alpharetta. We also had Gresham contact the Amley apartment complex, which is right here towards the north end on the eastern side of 400. So we got a lot of stakeholder feedback in terms of what we could move forward with. As we moved forward, it became very evident to us that the Phase 4, which is on the western side of 400, was not going to be as viable as we thought it was going to be. And this is primarily because it was a duplication of other routes that already exist in the area. So you're looking at Warsaw Road, you're looking at Old Roswell Road that are already serving this north-south commute. What we were seeing is a lot of traffic dump before it even gets down to our Big Creek 4. It's using Mansell to get over to 400, it's using Mansell to get over to 9, and so it's not really utilizing Big Creek 4 as we thought it would. Conversely, on the 3 side, we actually saw significant usage on the 3 side when we ran our travel demand models. What this showed us was that we needed more connection on the eastern side of 400, being the old Alabama connector being the only north-south connection that we have basically on the east side of the city. So by adding this second connection in through here, we actually open up a variety of options for our citizens to use, that they do not have to get near the interchange and they do not have to get on 400 to just go and exit or to north to access North Point shopping, or for the vice versa for Alpharetta coming down to us. It was asked of me at committee about how the city of Alpharetta felt about this project. On the western side, they were not as enthused. There was some concerns about connecting into the commercial districts that they had already. On the eastern side, it was more neutral. Their concern primarily was the intersection itself at Mansell Road and North Point Parkway. As you know, they've just installed a triple left there going north on North Point, so they were afraid that there would be a little bit of a volume impact there and kind of mess up what they're trying to do. But they were relatively neutral. I think I can speak to that. So as you see here today, through work session and through the stakeholders that we worked with and through your input, we've identified the red line on the eastern side of 400. That's option 3A, alternative 3A, as our locally preferred alternative. We've got just a few little things left that we want to do. They're going to draw us some very basic design plans, what we call horizontals and verticals, just kind of looking to see kind of where the road's going to exactly align and use the rest of our budget. But it also tightens down our numbers. So if there is an interest in building this 3 in the future, we can come back to you with a very strong number and not a range. We don't have to say it's 11 to 14. We can say it's 12 to 12.5, for example, or some combination of those numbers. I'll introduce any questions here.
Does the council have any questions? Councilmember Diamond.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see we have a representative of the North Fulton CID here. I
Yes.
wanted to see if she wanted to comment or if she's just sitting in.
Kirsten, did you want to comment to that? I will add, Steve, I don't believe you brought this up, but they were a partner to us. They actually provided a financial incentive as part of the match to our federal aid. We put in a 50-50 match, so the CID was our partner throughout this process. Kristen?
I don't have really anything important to add, just we were happy to be a partner with this process. We enjoyed working with Chris and his team over at the city and Steve, and so we're happy that it's kind of coming to fruition now, and we're hoping that we can move it forward, like Mr. Mayor said, and get it built someday. So.
Now, we're talking about the red line tonight or the green line?
Yes,
I mean,
what we're asking you to adopt tonight, the locally preferred alternative would be alternative 3A, which is the red line on the eastern side of 400 that connects up to what is called Beaver Creek Road in Alpharetta, across Big Creek down to what will become the Big Creek Parkway that's in design now.
Just 2 comments. One, I think, thank you for putting this together. It was a good exercise. The key to this, in my mind, is getting not just the CID to support this, but getting Alpharetta to back this, because this would necessarily be a joint project. Yes, I think it'll help expand the CID. I think it'll help Alpharetta at least as much as it does the city of Roswell. And the last comment, once we finalize this, I want you to go back and look at what it does to our trail system, because you know, the potential trail connections at the same time we make these improvements
Mr. Mayor,
may have an impact on our overall trail system.
We are briefing the Recreation Commission on their July meeting to discuss that very issue.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments by council? Did we get a second? Motion and a second? Yeah. Do we have a motion? Motion to approval by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Wynn. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Orleans.
I was just going to say, Mr. Eisenbrack, as you were talking about the benefit of doing the study and the money spent wisely, I think what it really did is help show us which routes we did not want to do.
Yes, sir.
I think we all had an idea of the one we are doing, but we're also considering so many alternatives, so it really did help in that regard as well, kind of eliminating what we don't need to deal with.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to thank CID, North Fulton CID, for helping with this. We really appreciate that. But started this when I was transportation director many years ago, and almost 8. And I really want to give kudos where kudos are deserved, and that's to our transportation staff. You've built up a really great staff, and bringing this along is just, it's really good to see it really growing legs and becoming a teenager. So thank you all so much for all your hard work. You've got a great team, and just keep up the good work. Really proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Diamond. All in favor of the motion?
But I do have a question when you're done with this vote.
All in favor of the motion, raise your hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Diamond.
I just wanted to point out that since we have such a small group on a regular basis, we have a new member among us, our new Roswell neighbor reporter, Catherine back there, that you may or may not have met, but she picked an excellent time to start coming to our meetings.
We're adjourned. Mr. Houze, back to you.
Bob, I might be working